Welcome everybody to the 63rd meeting of Soteria, and we are going to discover from Jenean McBrearty today something about flash fiction and her contribution to this genre. And I'm very interested to hear what we are going to hear in the next few minutes. So, Jenean, over to you.
Well, flash fiction um, started out as an accommodation for the short American attention span and the necessity of having something that people can read while they're on the move. And this is before audio got really, really big. It's really big now. But before that, uh, they wanted a genre where it would be a complete story. And a lot of people think they confuse it with a vignette, and it's not. It evolved into this separate genre where you have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, just like any other piece of fiction, but it depends on the word count. And flash fiction is okay, a drabble is like from 6 to 10 words. Now, I, I'm not quite sure. I've never read drabble, so I don't know. But any between that and about 1,000 to 1,200 words, that's it. Many of the journals and the e-zines stop at 1,000, no more, no less. Others say, okay, maybe 500 words, 800 words, but nothing over 1,000, nothing over 1,200. And within that space of time, you are supposed to actually write a story arc, character development, which means what? It's very dependent on vocabulary and very dependent on um, uh, a specific characterization. And it's become now a separate section of the Master of Fine Arts programs in creative writing, in America at least. So it's kind of taken on um, rules, if you will, that about flash fiction that weren't there before. So when I started into my graduate work, obviously I was older, and there weren't really any rules except for the word count. Well, now there are. I don't pay no attention to them. I just write stories, and they get published, which is um, if we're going to start out with Red's Not Your Color. This was published by Dead Guns Press, June of 2014. In July, a Canadian publication called Subterrane Magazine, who pay very well, by the way, for those who want to submit things, um, they wanted to publish it for their special edition on noir, which is war and noir are my fields that I write in. And I told them, "Are you sure you want to do that? Because it would be a reprint." And they said, "No, we want it." So I said, "Okay, then you send me my check, and we're good to go." So and they did that. So this first story we're going to read is not really flash fiction. We have the other pieces to read that are flash. It's a little bit longer, but it did win a Silver Pen Award, and and it was reprinted. So obviously, I thought, well, that'd be a good place to start to show off my writing ability. So if you want to start,
Janine, how many words does this have, just out of interest? How much does it go over the limit for flash
um,
fiction?
I don't know
Oh, okay, no,
right offhand. I would say maybe
1,500 or something?
about 1,500 to 2,000. Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
so
okay,
somewhere in there. I would say like 1,800.
right, okay.
But I make no pretense that this is literary. So don't get it
Uh,
confused with Shakespeare.
all right, we'll try not to. Now, how would you like us to read it?
Sure.
Yeah. It's your piece. You choose the readers, please.
Uh, Elizabeth, you want to start?
Yes,
You're at
but
the top of the heap.
is better when I come really close? Can you hear me better then? Do you hear
Yes,
me all right?
yes.
Yeah,
Fine.
so I
Yeah.
go quite near to it. Red is not your color. Jenean McBrearty, 1957, Friday, 10 a.m. Duke and Winnie walked into a real mess Friday. Some guy had glued his fat finger to a trigger with epoxy and rigged a Stechkin with twine so that when he kicked the door open, the automatic kept firing into his mouth. The result was pulp that made the photographer throw up before he could make it out of the bedroom. Contaminated the whole fucking crime scene, the forensic investigator said as he and the detectives crossed paths in the hall. Damn rookies. Well, he's in pretty bad shape, Winnie said to nobody as he stood in the bedroom doorway. Thorough kind of fellow, Duke said as he slid past him and stepped through the milkshake of brains and pizza to get a closer look. Not particularly masculine. How so? What kind of guy sticks something hard and cold in his mouth? A determined one, Winnie said. You really think this is a suicide? Duke looked around the room. When's this mess gonna be cleaned up? We need to check out the rest of the rooms. Somebody had stacked racks just outside the door, and Duke wiped his shoes before making tracks across the living room. We are waiting on a meat wagon, detective, the uniform said. Could be most of the day. Here's what we got so far. Victim's name, Carl Clemens. Got the usual. He handed Duke a wallet and the neighbor's information. Well, check back in a few, Duke said. Winnie was already in the car. They went to Winchell's donut shop and sat inside. Only Easterners gobbled up the California sunshine that they took for granted. They took a lot for granted now. They had their gold shields. Privileges like sitting in a donut shop over coffee, discussing their latest cases or latest heartache. Winnie had his nose open for a big-boned blonde named Sheila, who worked at the Commoning Club, maintaining that not everybody who worked there was a sexual deviant. When Duke asked him for the 100th time why he hadn't nailed her yet. That was Winnie's cue to remind him that every time he nailed a girl, he had to make another date with Mama Sweet. How many little Dukes would be running around now if it weren't for your colored connections? Winnie said. He was stuffing down the last of a chocolate eclair. Can I help it if I hit the bull's eye every shot? Duke adjusted his balls. I wouldn't brag on that target practice. Awful expensive, pal. $300 now or a lifetime of trouble. So it went until they were sure their sugar shots would stay down. Murders got more gruesome every year. So how does a middle-aged homeowner get hold of a Russian-made automatic weapon? Winnie said when he returned with his third cup of joe. Beats me. War souvenir, maybe. But the feds are gonna be here as soon as they find out. You know Captain Witherspoon. He'll be on the horn to DC 10 seconds after our report hits his desk. We do all the work and they take all the credit, life's a bitch. Winnie lit a Pall and lowered his voice. Unless we leave that information out of report. I'm Italian and you are whatever you are. You sure ain't Russian. We can't just say the weapon was an automatic.
Michael, do you want to take over?
Sure. Duke quickly scanned the donut shop to see if anyone was in earshot. What do you know about Russian guns, right? Exactly my point. We catch us a few commies. I'll bet we get a raise, Finney said. By 6 o'clock, the body and the neighbors were gone, and except for the blood-stained walls of the chalk outline of Carl Clemens, no one could tell a tragedy had occurred on Idaho Street. According to neighbors, Clemens was a model citizen who just had his lawn mowed and his hedges clipped. A blue ribbon for best kept hanging on the icebox door testified they appreciated it. On the windowsill sat a scrub brush and a soap dish. The trash had been emptied. The sink was dry. Is the bathroom as clean as the kitchen? Duke asked Vinny, who'd come into the hallway, his hands in his pockets. Our Clemens was mighty tidy. You find anything? Nothing that can't be explained by the looks of his yard and that shiny blue Plymouth in the driveway. Let's get to it. Duke tackled the desk, Vinny the dresser drawers and nightstand. No unpaid bills, no checks, no savings passbook, no phone bills, photographs, letters, or birthday cards. They moved on to the closets and the garage. The men sat at opposite ends of the green flowered sofa. Odd, don't you think? Duke said. Not really. Sheila says green is the color of the year. Duke nodded his head. Sheila would know. I mean, what's odd is that there's no stuff. Where's his bowling ball, hunting rifle, Christmas ornaments? Where the hell is his dust? His dust? Yeah. Duke ran his fingertips over the coffee table. See, and not a drop of piss in the bathroom. Maybe when a guy doesn't bowl, hunt, or sing fa la la, he's got time to dust, Vinny said. Or has one hell of a housekeeper. But Duke was right. Whoever killed Clemens stripped the place of anything that might leave a clue about what he was like, who he knew, and whether he had friends or family or friends. Still, commies might not know of a good old American tradition. He pulled up his cushion and ran his hand along the side and back of the sofa's frame. I once lost a condom in a couch, he said. Duke picked up his cushion and plowed the side and back. Bingo, Finney said, and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It's a receipt. For a gun? No, chicken fried steak from Rutford's restaurant, dated 3 months ago, 2 a.m. Wonder what bar Clemens haunts. Let's ask Annie, who signed her name and thanks, come again at the bottom, and has very nice handwriting. It was 11:30. Rutford's was setting up for the late-night crowd. Not here. Annie Grant didn't show up for her shift last night either. You know what that means? I had to work another double 12-hour shift. The cigar-chewing chef handed Duke an address he'd scrawled on a napkin. This Annie have family? A husband, a boyfriend? Duke said. Not that I know of. She ever date customers? Vinny said. Not that I know of. You know a guy named Carl Clemens? Vinny said. Not a name I recognize. Thanks, Duke said. Not a problem. Duke kicked in the door of the Orange Avenue Apartments 7 residence, the odor of garbage smacking their nostrils. A female body lay in the bathtub, dressed in white uniform and wearing a name tag that said, Hi, I'm Annie. Her face and half her head were gone. No blood or brains anywhere, Duke said. Not that I can see, Vinny said, and the two men laughed. Chef Rutford's going to have to get himself a new waitress. This one's all washed up. Grinning, Duke sat down on the john. You crack me up. You're one sick son of a bitch, Vinny. Vinny sighed. It's the job. I figure Clemens killed Annie somewhere, brought her home, make sure she's not going to mess up her spick and span bathroom, and then goes home and offs himself. Duke rubbed his 5 o'clock shadow. Suicide after all? Sure would save us a lot of legwork if we could make it a murder-suicide pact. We got the receipt to connect them. Lover's quarrel ain't going to get us a raise, Duke said, and went to the living room to call the uniforms. Vinny looked under the tub and checked the cupboard beneath the sink. Annie and Clemens must have hired the same maid or spent their playtime cleaning house. He checked the bedroom closet. No bowling ball, no Christmas ornaments, no makeup or perfume on her vanity, no dust. Maybe Annie and Clemens were two oddballs who found each other, decided they were just cluttering up the planet, and checked out after a thorough spring cleaning.
Robin,
Whatever.
oh,
Okay.
Robin, do you want to take over? Oh, he's not there. Never mind. I don't know. Michael, do you want to go?
Sure, sure. Whatever. He had a blonde getting off work in 2 hours and he wanted to shower, shit, and shave before he picked her up. He and Duke could walk away from these two faceless people, add the Stechkin to their report, and let Witherspoon hand everything to the feds. It's not like they'd invested hours in the cases. Nothing in the victims' lives suggested they were even people, let alone communists. All Reds had code books, secret radios, comrades, and defense industry jobs. You know, I've been thinking, Duke. Duke was checking Annie's sofa. He handed Vinny 32 cents and held up a small silver-colored coin. Look at this. You collect old dimes? It's 10 kopecks. A Russian dime. Now, what were you thinking? Vinny looked closely at the coin. It could have been a tip. Sometimes he just reached in his pocket, grabbed whatever coins he had, and left them on the table. Annie could have counted her tips on her sofa, and this one got away from her. He'd have to call the Come On In Club and leave a message for Sheila he couldn't make it. I've been thinking, even commies have love affairs. They'd never solve this case anyway. If Cremona was a spy, his assassin would either be getting a medal from Eisenhower or in a Russian safe house. But when he and Duke got bored, they could haul out the Clemens cold case and look at the Russian dime. Monday, 5 p.m. Los Angeles. Carl Clemens and Annie Grant were dead, but Marshall Troy had been sloppy and Watson hated sloppy work. Everything in their inventories was accounted for except for one coin in Annie's collection, a 1909 Double Eagle silver 10 kopeck. Tell Troy to get his ass in here, Watson hissed to his secretary through his intercom. That's why he was called the Snake by the FBI agents under his command. 10 minutes later, Troy was sitting across from Watson, his head hanging like a third grader. I checked every pawn shop and coin dealer in Dago, he told Watson, but nobody's buying Russian stuff these days. Too afraid of looking suspicious. I might have lost it in transit. Bullshit. I know agent's going to risk his career for 10 cents of worthless Russian money. So if you're thinking somebody stole it, don't. Watson loved to see them squirm when they screwed up, especially new guys. The SDPD detectives that caught these cases, what are their names? He flipped through the Trot's 10-page report. Vincent Fresco and William Buckenick. They reported the Stechkin, but no coin. Maybe Grant spent it on chewing gum by mistake, or maybe one of these local yokels had his own coin collection. When the United States government orders an erasure, it means every speck, mite, and mote, Troy. You Secret Service guys, all brawn and no brains? Watson hadn't ordered him to find the damn dime, but it meant a trip back to Dago. Where there were 2 double agents willing to sell out America, there might be 3 or 4 or 100 more. He might get lucky. He stopped in Del Mar, had a sandwich, and checked into the Travelodge at 9:58, just in time to hear the 10 o'clock news. Jimmy Hoffa had been indicted that afternoon. Saturday, 8 p.m. Front pleated grey slacks, red suspenders, charcoal fedora. Yeah, Vinny was going to make him move on Sheila tonight. What say we meet up at Rutford's, Duke said. Be part of the last call crowd. Vinny was combing his ducktail and admiring the result in a make-up mirror he kept in his desk. Duke tossed a 1-inch resin cube into the air like a quarter. Embedded inside was the Clemens clue, the Russian dime. I want to meet the blonde babe that's got you thinking jewelry store. Vinny turned and caught the cube midair. Who made your lucky charm? On one side of the cube was a Steinmetz jeweler's label. How much did Shyster Steinmetz charge you? $5? Like a man handling an egg, Vinny put the cube on Duke's desk. Treat it gently. He buffed his shoes with a brush. This Clemens case dogging your thoughts? You're damn right. When Witherspoon closes a case without giving us so much as an ounce of shit, something's fishy. As fishy as you hanging around on a Saturday night. What gives? Duke gave a quick scan of the room to make sure no one had come back for a forgotten notebook or set of keys. The coroner's report said Annie Grant was raped post-mortem. Do tell. You think that's the reason Witherspoon closed the case? Afraid one of his uniforms is into fucking corpses? His quivering lips slipped into a smile when Duke's shoulders began to shake with laughter. I think it's the new guy. Vinny put the brush back in the dope kit. It's possible Clemens fucked her before he committed suicide, but I don't see communists being into kinky sex, Duke said. I don't see them holding meetings at Radford's restaurant either. Just a hunch. There's more. I'm being tailed by a suit. While I'm waiting for the resin to set, this guy comes in looking for an engagement ring. Pretends he's all engrossed, lingers over every ring. Steinmetz shows him. Nobody but you do that, Vinny. Duke lit up a Camel. I went to the hotel next door and watched from the lobby. The guy left Steinmetz 15 seconds after I did. You figure he'd tail you to Radford's? Duke was tossing the cube again. See you at 2 a.m. The hell you will. Vienna dialed Sheila to beg off. If Duke said a guy was tailing him, he was. But Duke disconnected the call before she could answer. Nah, keep your date. If he wanted me dead, I'd be in the morgue. I'll let him get a little closer.
Stead, you want to take over?
I think it'll be nice to hear you conclude it because you've got an American voice. I think that's more.
Oh, me? Okay.
Yeah.
9:30 p.m. Cindy Bernardo climbed into Duke's blue DeSoto, her face half hidden by a wide-brimmed black hat she thought she made her look glamorous. Thanks for the lift, cousin, she said. She never did call him Duke. Only John Wayne was entitled to that honorific in her movie star madness playbook. The DeSoto crawled away from the curb outside the Freedom Balenbahn where Cindy worked swing shift on Saturdays. It's no bother. Busy tonight? The usual. Sailors hitting the bars early. Damn kids don't know how to drink. What you got for me? This could get Hank fired, you know. Where would I find another ex-husband with a steady job if I lost him? Hank was janitor at the LA Federal Building, a janitor with exceptional hearing, a great memory for names, phone numbers and faces, and a talent for slipping file folders in and out of trash cans. He says some agent named Marshall Troy was working the Clemens case. And guess what? There's a report in the file case about you and Vinny. Hank, get a look at that report? Better. He got a look at Troy's personnel file. You and Vinny are Dullsville compared to Troy, a real star. Worked with the Hoffa investigation, one of Joe McCarthy's bodyguards during the HUAC hearings. Cindy's info answered a lot of questions. Witherspoon had get the case over to the feds as soon as he saw the report. And Troy was in D.C. when Congress overrode Truman's veto of the Stop the Commie Spies Even If You Have to Kill 'Em McCarran Act. He walked Cindy to her door and drove to Tops Drive-In to get a burger and a shave, while he thumbed through the little black book to find a dame he could call on short notice. He had to play normal for Troy the Sailor. Troy the Tailor. What the hell? He'd go by his ex's place and pretend he wanted to see his kids. They should be asleep by now. He'd plow a familiar patch and watch him a Washington Wonderkind. 11 p.m. He gave Kathy a good fuck and a check for $100 and kissed the kids. Well, the kid on the top bunk anyway. He gave the one on the top a pat on the shoulder and thought of the guy who delivered the milk. Yes, he promised he'd make an appointment to see the priest, knowing he'd always be too busy. Kathy knew too. She made him promise twice. 2:10 a.m. Vinny got to Rutgers late. He spotted the meat wagon and knew somebody was dead. Customers inside the restaurant were rubbernecking at the windows and a uniform stood at the door. Robbery gone bad, Duke said. They were staring down at a body laying in a puddle of blood, thickening in the San Diego August air. 3 nickel-sized holes in his left lapel told the story. I wasn't about to give him one damn dime. Find anything in his pockets, Vinny said. ID of some kind? A 3-pack of Ramsey's rubbers and one missing is all. Funny, huh? Duke said. I probably need to buy me some of them. He the guy from the jewelry store? Yep. He looked like a commie to you? Duke scratched his chin. He should have shaved before he left Kathy's. He looks like one dead stupid bastard to me. Cops never have any money. Maybe he didn't know you were a cop. No more blue advertising. The uniform interrupted. Witherspoon wants to see you ASAP, Buchanan, and moved on. Duke headed to his car with Vinny to the side. You were right about Sheila, a.k.a. Sid Beardsley, Vinny said sadly. Sorry about that, Duke said. Hell of a pool player. Sure hit his meat well. How'd I miss the clues? Duke stared at the ground, grinning sympathy. It must be hell living a double life, and maybe it was for some. For others, not a problem. It depended on what kinds of friends a man had.
Oh, thank you very much. I enjoyed that. It's a very yeah, I suppose noir.
Yeah.
Your interests are borne out by the writing that comes from it. I'm not that familiar with that genre of fiction. Presumably, though, that would include Raymond Chandler. He would be regarded as a noir author, would he not?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think Raymond Chandler would be grey, according to if you're by terms of noir, always compared to what Jenean read, we read.
Great. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I have a question for either Jenean or anybody who knows. I'm a big fan of film noir. Watch at least one a week, probably several, right?
Well,
But all I've ever seen are the films. And they had something in that era called the Hays Code, which prevented
yeah.
any kind of profanity or anything,
Mm.
They allowed sexually suggestive, but nothing beyond that, right? Which is why it became an art form to be really suggestive without saying anything.
Mm.
I'm just wondering, I have never read print, any noir in print. Were they not covered by the Hays Code? Because this one had a lot of that stuff that would have been banned, right? Were the old Raymond Chandler or whatever? I've seen movies made out of Raymond Chandler stuff and noir in general. I've never actually read it. I'm a Philistine, I guess, But can anybody answer? Is the print noir genre more racy than the film?
Jenean would be the person to answer
Yeah,
that,
exactly. I certainly don't know.
Well, like you, I haven't read a lot of the noir fiction. I got a hold of it's a book of 3 or 4 stories of one of it's not Chandler, I think it's Dashiell Hammett. But I only got through like maybe the first half of the first chapter, and I didn't notice any profanity at all.
Okay.
But I also noticed that they took a lot of time to set up the ambiance in terms of the male-female meetings. They're very well, obviously unemotional, impersonal, kind of, the women are femme fatales or whatever. They're bad women to begin with, usually prostitutes, that sort of thing. The people that we look down on, even though they're probably the most fun people in the whole wide world. Anyway, and so I really don't know the answer to your question in terms of a wide range of the reading material. My guess would be that some were racier than others. But the term pulp fiction gives you an idea of the violence that occurs. And wherever go ahead, Stead. I'm sorry.
I'm just going to say, I mean, just having a cursory look for an answer to the question, I don't think there was anything like the Hays Code that was brought in during that era. There was in America, as existed in many countries, legislation that would limit what could be said in print on grounds of propriety, but there was nothing specifically that was brought in at that time. I think the legislation existed from an earlier time, as would be found in many countries.
Well, I could certainly say, I've certainly read Raymond Chandler, and there's definitely no more profanity than in the films. That absolutely not.
Yeah, that was
100%
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I said he's grey compared to the noir
Yeah.
of Jenean's.
Mm,
Although
mm,
Jenean, you're obviously very, very much in the style of that Raymond Chandler, that the
mm.
cynicism and satire, which I think you did tremendously well. But I'm a little shocked that such a genteel and well-spoken lady could write. This obviously shows another side of you.
Yeah.
If somebody had
Well,
had shown me that fiction and said, "Guess who wrote that?" I
Yeah.
would never have thought of you.
no, see, this is a problem that I have when I go to speaking engagements and reading like at our public library. Now, I don't read this stuff, but because this particular story um, was written and published in the 2000s as opposed to the 1920s,
Yeah.
1930s,
Yeah.
40s, you're moving towards a more um, um, disgusting way of writing stuff. People don't want Raymond Chandler anymore in terms of the younger audiences. And that's really the target market if you're going to write
Mm.
noir detective stuff for younger people. You got to have the profanity, otherwise they think, yeah.
So you deliberately wrote this with a younger readership in mind?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh,
Because the
Mm.
the age group that reads on the screen, through notebooks and things like that, are quite different than older people like myself who want to read a book.
Mm.
So that the genre not only has to be, but it has to move. There
Mm.
has to be a constant um, go on with the story. You notice there's
Mm.
not really that much description. There is some, but we know that you know the, obviously Sheila is a transsexual, uh, but the word transsexual is
Oh,
never.
it is. Sorry, I mean, I'm not. You know, that didn't sort of strike me. I wouldn't have said that if there was a multiple choice question at the end with Sheila. You know, I wouldn't have. I'd have failed that. I'm afraid. Yeah.
He's a
Um,
mix.
So I mean, and it is from an American audience, and if you could see our television shows, um, the broadcasting, and I think AJ will back me up on this. I've heard words on television I never thought I would hear people
oh,
say
really, really. Okay,
as part
interesting.
of their
Mm,
even news delivery.
mm,
People, scatological references and stuff. So I thought, well,
mm,
I'll try my hand. And it was so well received. I thought, well,
mm.
I guess that's the way you do it.
This is fascinating. I've got to ask Anthony, how, or where did you pick up this kind of language? Because I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not the normal way you speak. It's certainly
Michael
not the way you.
sounds like your
No,
father speaking.
no,
I'm
you
sort of
have,
fascinated. I mean, did you sort of diligently gather ways of speaking, or did you pick it up from films, or is
well,
there
let me
another
just, let
side
me
to
just,
you that can switch?
yeah, yeah. But you have to remember, I spent 27 years teaching at military installations
Hmm.
and taught the Marines at Camp Pendleton. So
Yeah,
what I
Right.
heard
yeah, yeah, yeah.
is this is tame compared to Marine talk.
Mm,
And I taught military people, and that's the way they talk. I,
Right. So you picked it up like that. I
okay.
thought I was going to say what I really admired was completely Chandler. And I mean, sounds perhaps hyperbole, but you do it as well as him. I would say it's this irony. I mean, this
yeah,
grotesque irony. You
Mm,
just, ugh.
mm.
And wow, I really
Mm.
admire that the way you've done that.
I
thank you.
admire the
Thank you.
fact that there is hardly anything superfluous there. It is very, very pared down to only the essentials that give
Mm.
significant information, and I think that is
That's
a
the thing
very
about
admirable.
flash fiction
Yeah.
across the board. is that it challenges the editing skill, and every word has to count, and the characterization has to come through dialogue. It can't come from long descriptions or anything like that. So it almost reads like a Reader's Digest condensed book or something, because you have to put so much into so little space. And I think it's a really good exercise for younger writers in the MFA programs to learn editing skills, because you write the story and it's 5,000 words, and then through editing you get it down to maybe, like I say, 1,200. This one's on the long side. Now the other ones, which by the way are cleaner. I forgot that this was so graphic. Otherwise, I might not have chosen this one. I hope I didn't offend you, Elizabeth.
No, not at all.
Oh,
I didn't understand everything, but I thought that it was very witty. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
So-
a joke that goes among writers. If I had more time, I would have written something shorter.
Yes, that's right.
Exactly.
Doesn't that come from Jane Austen or something?
Right,
So,
right.
Denise, I want to clarify. I was curious about that one point, but I liked it. I was just taken aback by the Hays Code. By the way, the Hays Code was voluntary. It was just public pressure which kept it there. If you
Yeah.
violate the Hays Code, all kinds of pressure groups came after you, but it was not a mandatory code. But it was almost universally adhered to because of public pressure in that period of time. It was a very
Especially for film, as you point out, AJ, and it's true.
Well, it was directly for film, was it not? The Hays Code.
Yeah, it was
Right, and they had all kinds of silly rules. One foot had to be on the floor if there was a
and the feet had to be. There's something about the feet that had to be in a certain position, or you couldn't be.
Right.
1 foot off the
No.
bed.
Yeah, that's right. You had to have one foot on the
bed.
floor, not on
Yeah.
the. I don't know. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was the heyday of the Catholic Legion of Decency, which was big in America. If I remember Baby Doll, God's Little Acre, and a number of films that are considered really good films. The story Tennessee Williams, that kind of stuff. And if you went to see it, yeah, you committed a mortal sin, you were going to hell. And it's like, what? But they censored. And every weekend, in San Diego at least, they would publish a list of approved films, approved for adults, condemned for everybody. Not even adults could go see those films. And a lot of times, the pulp films, the noir films, made the list of nobody gets to see them.
And it wasn't just sexual stuff. The bad guys never get away with it.
Yeah. That's interesting.
They always had to meet justice at the end.
Right.
But
right.
that made people extra creative. So, like if you've ever seen these Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, there's nothing graphic, but there is so much heavy sexual innuendo. They pushed it right to the edge of what they could get away with. It made it an art form, really like.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes these restrictions are a stimulus to creativity and can actually produce something that's much better had they not been there. Michael, what's your thoughts as one of the other people who was born in America?
I was, of course, raised with these film noir, and I always enjoyed them, but I couldn't tell you almost anything about them. I was too young. So I don't know who was in them. Uh, I really couldn't describe them. And it wasn't until later when we started getting into Italian films that my whole cinema world expanded. But it was just part of what we always saw on Saturday afternoon was usually a film noir.
Yeah.
But they were cheaply made. No, they weren't cheaply made. They were low budget films compared to what else was being filmed at the time.
Yeah.
and they were the B side of the hit record, so to speak. And many times double features had a clean film and then a film noir with it. And
But they always just carried you right through. They were always fascinating, never boring, and the acting was, I mean, it was what you expected to see on the screen.
Often the music was powerful as well. A good element. Some very good composers contributed. Robin, I mean, what were your thoughts? Did you like the prose or not, or was it not your cup of tea? Or?
Well, I do have a number of books by Raymond Chandler, which of which, and this obviously reminded me of them. I got a bit lost in the story, I have to admit, but that's probably just me.
Yeah, I did, but that's my fault, not yours, no doubt. I'd have probably read it more slowly if I'd been reading it on my own. Whereas here it's going at a certain pace and one's intending to other things. Sorry, Robin.
No, I think there's a point that came up there, Stead, with your discussion with Robin. I'd like to jump in there. I think there's a certain kind of intelligence where I know that I'm quite low down the IQ scale. Now, you're sort of almost implying you might be down there with me, because I strongly believe there are different kinds of intelligence. And there's a kind of intelligence of being quickly understanding what's happening in a dialogue or the plot of a film. And I constantly experience, if I watch a film with my wife, she not only better understands the plot, she is much better at predicting what's going to happen. She will say something like, he's not going to like what she said. I said, oh, really? And then you see this man who's sort of quivering with rage, and I'm sort of totally surprised that my wife has predicted it. She's seen it coming. And that happens again and again, and she totally understands the plot. And I've had that all my life. I have been completely stupid. And to give you an example, all of you have seen Planet of the Apes probably. I did not immediately understand the blown up Statue of Liberty on the sands. And Charlton Heston, yes, I know, I'm that stupid. And Charlton Heston goes down, you fools, you finally did it. And a person turns to me and said, hey, Michael, don't you understand? There was a nuclear war, and that's the blown up Statue of Liberty. I said, oh, yeah, yes. Oh, yes, of course. So there you are. So I think it's an interesting point. So maybe Stead and I, maybe we're not so fit with that very fast thing that you have to understand. And we've got a very good word in English, which I don't know if it reflected in many languages, which is that you're bright or you're dim, which is not necessarily about how intellectual you are exactly. And it means how quick you are.
I suppose all of us attend to certain things that we have some particular affinity for. And for some of us, maybe it's not certain times, certain details. I don't know. It's the whole picture, maybe, rather than the details, the elements of it. I don't know, something like that.
I like Agatha Christie very much, but I'm very slow at understanding the plot. And I have to sometimes read something, an Agatha Christie 3 times to really have understood why the person. I'm just very slow like that.
I'm more interested in language often than the actual content of most stories.
I think that might be it. I think if you're very kind of poetically inclined,
something like punctuation, I will be interested in to see how something is punctuated.
So much,
I mean, I didn't know what a Stechkin is at all. What's that?
It's a weapon. It's a firearm.
Oh, is it? Okay, I was not familiar with that. Is that a brand of a brand rather than a common noun? It's a proper noun, is it?
Yeah, it was a Russian machine gun.
Oh, okay. Well, I've not heard of that.
Yeah.
It's a Kalashnikov.
Oh, I see. Kalashnikov. I'm
not a Kalashnikov, but it's another. It's named after inventors like.
I see.
Yeah,
but how do you know the name of another Russian automatic weapon? I mean, that's a little bit my point. Ginny, I mean, how did you know that, for example? Is that from your teaching? Or is just part of general American vocabulary?
I wanted to start off by kind of explaining how this. And perhaps we should read The Blind Man Cometh, which is very, very short. And then maybe it'll become clearer in terms of, where I'm coming from. Because I've always been interested in, from 1870 to about 1965, that whole transitional decades that we went, obviously the world went through. And I've always been fascinated how quickly mores and dress and language and just everything just speeded up. And so a lot of the stuff that I write is based on either pre-war, mid-war, interwar, Cold War, and spy stuff, obviously. And Michael, you know that we're spy fans. So, but why don't we go on and read? Let's see.
Yeah, the blind man comments. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, let's do
Let me
that
make
then.
one comment for Stead's benefit, because it threw me for a moment too. Not
Yeah.
knowing it was a tranny. At the end, she gives it away by saying his real name was Sid. However, nowadays, many people name female Sydney.
good point.
Yeah,
Mm.
Sid Charisse, the actress who was in Singing in the Rain.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, but it is given away at the end that male, you know.
All right. Well, but perhaps, Jenean, does this have any expressions or uses of language that I would blush over reading?
Oh, I hope you didn't blush over the last one, but yeah.
Well, he did. He would have blushed more if he had to read it.
Yeah, I feel uncomfortable reading stuff like that in mixed company. If not, I'll start reading this. Can I? May I or not? Is it going to offend my delicate sensibilities?
Well, I tell you what, let's read God and Mooney are indisposed.
No. Robin, do you want to have an exercise of your
Yes,
vocal
okay.
apparatus? Yeah, that'd be very kind. Thank you.
Charles Callan, a bright young thing who possessed an artistic bent and played the saxophone, was 34 years old when Hitler marched into the Rhineland. Still unmarried, he got called up in 1941 and was killed 6 months later. He wasn't shot down. There was no blaze of glory exit for him. He died at Madame Ross's London salon in the arms of Lillian Marlene Swarthmore, a suspected German assassin who could take deadly aim with anything sharp, pointed, and decorative. In Jarvis's case, a fool's gold handled letter opener imported from Venice. Jarvis knew no state secrets, never flew on a secret mission, never harbored dreams of heroism or closeted radiant patriotism. Rumor had it even his RAF uniform fits poorly. Yet Lillian told Detective Cyril Begley he posed a danger to the Third Reich. She had discovered this danger shortly after he drank 3 glasses of champagne and fell into her soft white arms to partake of her considerable charms. She knew they were considerable because they were in great demand by scores of underpaid but generous virile pilots. What made Jar so dangerous? Detective Begley asked Lillian, his voice as low as her yellow silk dressing gown neckline, so low he could see the black lace of her bustier. She was reclining on her red velvet chaise longue. Begley's eyes lingered on her long legs, wondering if the silk would perhaps still slide away from them. The boys come in, they drink a little or a lot, then they want sex from a beautiful woman who they can pretend loves them because they're handsome and brave. Giles came in about 9 o'clock. He spied a newspaper on the nightstand beside my bed. I tried to distract him. I believe you could distract any man, Begley said. Were her stockings silk too? Her legs seemed to shimmer. All Cannon wanted to do was talk about the newspaper. I take it you don't tolerate rejection well. Lillian's eyes narrowed. There isn't a man alive who can resist me. Once he's paid his sterling, I've cured impotence. Begley.
Sorry, yeah.
I've lost where are we?
Begley nodded appreciatively.
A remarkable accomplishment, he said, and grieved that someday some treacherous old thing would invent a pill that could make seduction obsolete. What I don't understand is why you stuck the letter open in Giles' neck, he said. Neck traumas were invariably messy. One hoped they were not as painful as they appeared. It was that damn newspaper article about the cinema. It wasn't fair, he said, that John Betjeman got posted to Ireland and got to meet Laurence Olivier, who was there filming the Battle of Agincourt for Henry V, and got his name in the newspaper. Betjeman would never see action, and Giles was indignant because he was being exposed to great danger. Well, soon would be if Lord Cannon didn't act quickly. He went on and on about how John was the son of a carpenter, from a family that made dressing tables and household ornaments, and who pretended to be a poet. Giles had been with Betjeman at Highgate Junior School, was taught by the same brilliant T.S. Eliot, and how unfair it was that Betjeman had C.S. Lewis for a tutor when he went up to Oxford. But the most outrageous part of Betjeman's life was Archie, a teddy bear that he carried with him wherever he went. Beckley felt a smile creeping across his face. No true Englishman would find a faithful, silent companion off-putting. He prayed every Sabbath his wife would turn into a pillar of salt. People often revisited times and places familiar to them by carrying mementos. What was confounding to him was Lillian's successful men, given her judgmental attitude. Memories of his Uncle James hanging himself in his cold flat lodgings crept into his mind. James had just returned from London, where he'd seen a flying circus and was dangling naked, it was explained, because he didn't want to be covered in tent dust. Still, the name Kevin he had tattooed on his inner thigh was inexplicable. You don't say. Giles certainly said over and over, if the son of a German tradesman can worm his way into Oxford, then it's time real men fight to retain propriety. So there you have it. Jails had to be killed. Men like him, fanatics about class and station and breeding, are the most dangerous men in the world. Imagine what he would do if he came face to face with the democratic Führer. Democratic Führer. Insults to the working class are an insult against fascism. Insults of the worst kind. Begley could see that Lillian was having another bout of outrage as she relived her fateful meeting with Giles Cannon. Of course, he'd be a character witness for her at her trial. He'd had enough of the British upper class himself. As far as he was concerned, if Herr Hitler could kill off the rest of the dead wood of England's upper class parasites who'd escaped the Great War, then maybe the Hun wasn't such a bad man after all. Clearly, people like Betjeman, who wrote poetry, flowing with suffering over their father's emotional sterility, so much that he needed to carry a reminder of Daddy's authority around him in the form of a stuffed piece of cloth, were to be understood. But men who couldn't concentrate on the business at hand, fornicating in particular, needed to be removed from the nation's breeding stock. Giles Cannon's death was not so much a murder as it was a scientific procedure, pruning the herd, so to speak. There, Begley purred. You've suffered enough. But try to understand. We can't tolerate assassinations in Madame Ross's salon. The boys who come here are young, impressionable, and all too ready to make profane offerings to Aphrodite at your lovely altar. He moved closer to the chaise longue, pulling his chair so close that he could smell the aroma of gardenias that was rising from her verdant valley. He let the notebook fall from his hand, and his pen soon dropped to the floor as well. It was when he was leaning over to give her a comforting kiss that he spied the newspaper on the table beside her. His eyes scanned the print as his eyes refocused away from her sultry costume. He bolted upright. Can it be true? He grabbed the London Times and studied the article below the headline. Yanks beat Brits in soccer game at Newry match. This is outrageous. Americans playing soccer. I tell you, the world has gone mad. How could the Yanks like it if we beat them at baseball? There's some things that so sacred a man will give his all, yes, even his life, to defend. And soccer is one of those things. Lillian Marlene Swarthmore, primped and powdered and smelling of fresh flowers, slipped her stiletto heel off her left foot and put Begley's left eye in her crosshairs. He was worse than the recently dispatched aviator, qua cinema dilettante. He was a sportsman.
Hmm. Yeah, some applause, I think. Yeah,
Oh
very,
my
very well
goodness.
written. Very well written. Yeah. Uh, yeah, you're obviously a very talented writer with a very distinctive um, quality which you instill your works with. I think,
Well,
just judging from two, yes.
thank you. The
Uh,
main thing is that I always try to sneak in a little history
hmm,
and a little higher level of things to read for younger readers. The whole reason I went to my MFA program was to get training of how to incorporate historical stuff in a way that younger people could learn something as well as enjoy a story. And I was told at that time by my instructors, "You're an idiot. That is not the purpose of writing stories. It's not to educate, it's to just entertain people." And I thought, well, that doesn't sound right to me. I think people should learn something as well, or in place of just feeling something. And so that's the reason I got started writing short pieces that I thought I could interject information to the younger readers. The colleges here in America, they all have journals, and they hope that they make money, and they solicit um, opportunities for writers to be published to get their career started. And so these short stories give them more room in their journals to publish more people. But because
hmm,
of that, the universities and the MFA programs, even though they ask for experimental writing, they don't really mean it. But I think I don't know what time it is. How much time we've got, but I think I would like us to read "God and Mooney Are Indisposed." I think that is probably
yeah.
um, the best one to read.
Hmm. All right. Okay.
Jenean, were you actually a femme fatale in your youth? Is that how you know all this?
Well, I've been married 3 times.
Obviously, yes. Obviously, yes.
So I
Okay.
know universities, and I know a lot about men. So I thought, combine those two, it might be interesting. So
Okay. Uh, I think, yeah. Okay. No, that's good. Right.
AJ, could you read a little of God and Mooney?
Sure,
Yeah.
except you're not sharing the screen. Okay, there you go. All right.
So, right. Let's get to the top. Gordon Mooney.
And
Off.
this is, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. This
Okay,
is
God
short.
and Mooney
Short.
are indisposed. Is it Nietzsche or Nietzsche? Matter, he's dead, Lars said. I should have known he was having another one of his funkadoodles. He was drinking sugar-free cocoa mix made with water. He was worried about his calorie and sugar intake, which meant he was having a bout of mortality angst. Ordinarily, I'd be sympathetic and make love to him, and that would perk up his spirits, but I was having a bout of hoping it goes away by itself. My father, Marvin Beaumont, had died 10 days ago, and nobody bothered to tell me. If I hadn't signed up for a Google alert, I'd never have known. Lars was naked, sitting cross-legged on the floor, staring at a tray on which he'd set his Bugs Bunny mug of cocoa and two quarter-sized shortbread cookies, and he didn't see me roll my eyes and flip him off. Did he really have a traveling third eye on his head? I saw that, he said, and that seemed to confirm the existence of the eye. But then again, he knew me so well. I paid the rent, Mooney, he said. Thank you, I said. I made the car payment. But back to Friedrich. It's Nietzsche, like a short sneeze. Um, like people who are so emotionally constipated they can't say achoo. They go ache. Lars was an excellent teacher. I believed his recurrent blue blahs were the result of wasted talent. He taught seventh grade social studies at Bateman Middle School. He pretended it was pre-philosophy the way seventh grade teachers pretend that they taught pre-med. Why the sudden interest in my superstar? You have Steve Jobs. This is going to be another discussion about my materialism and your nihilism, I said. I'm not up to it today, sweetie. I wish you wouldn't call me sweetie. The guys from high school still call him Mangler. He has to wear long-sleeve shirts because of his death grunge punk metal Nazi ink. I'd had my one tattoo, a small thumper on my right thigh, removed in case there was an emergency at work and my skirt came off. As it turned out, it was an unnecessary procedure. With my father gone, I don't have to live in fear of a racy headline. Computer Mart CEO bears hair. Lars leaned back, stretched and opened his legs as though trying to cradle the tray with his tentacles. He was yearning for September and football. Life had meaning for him then. Had it been September, I would have been able to point to his black and yellow Steelers hat, sweatshirt, hoodie, throw pillow, t-shirt, foam finger, sneaker decals, nylon running pants, hors d'oeuvre tray, pennant, and bubble-headed car companion as proof of his own brass commercialism. But it was Marsh and a Rammstein kind of day, dark and wet, thunder in the distance, wind that toppled the trash cans of our lazy neighbors. Mother told me Lars had seasonal affective disorder. I told her it was sad Lars had a rotten disposition 6 months out of the year. How did he die, Mooney? Was it quick, painless? It was gory details time. I could tell him the truth. Marvin Beaumont was a victim of Big Mac and died in his sleep next to Rachel, the third wife who made him forget he had other wives and the daughter. Or I could brighten his day. Tragically, Lars, his memoir unfinished, wishing for grandchildren, a condition complicated from his Vietnam War wounds, calling my name, crying for his mother, clutching the hand of a priest who prayed over him. I wish I could have been there for him, Lars said, and he really meant it. It must have been terrible. It wasn't, it should have been, the last and greatest event in Mars Beaumont's life, should have been filled with remorse and regret. Parsifal playing in the background, the names of all he held dear on his lips. His last words, Jesus forgive me. Black plumed, black horses should have carried his casket in a glass-windowed carriage as people lining the streets wave farewell to a brave, battered, and beloved soul. A lone piper on a hill should have played Amazing Grace, even though Marvin was born in Alabama. If Lars had been in charge of the funeral, that's the way it would have been. And in 1882, the death of God would have been mourned with dignified sorrow. The deaths of history and great philosophic debates about the nature of good and evil, debates people were burned at the stake for, wouldn't be forgotten along with the 19-cent Jack-in-the-Box hamburgers and landline phones. Lars says now there is no such thing as history or good or evil. There's only diagnosis, treatment, recovery movements, antipsychotic pharmaceuticals, law and order, laser beams lurking about our brains, cutting away dysfunction as we listen and read nothing but repetition of how and why God was killed, and why the separation of church and state is a good thing. There is only sustained vicarious pleasure in a virtual universe populated by proton morons who are no longer fear nuclear megadeath so much as they feel not getting enough omega-3, killability reduced to krill oil. Was he buried, Lart says, Arlington National? He's not buried. His ashes are swirling in the wind by the sea in Santa Monica, but I can't tell Lars that. His funkadoodle might last for days, weeks. I want to tell Lars that temporarily, Mountain Beaumont's still in Amort Station's icebox, waiting for Rachel to make the last payment on the Viking longboat and getting a license to burn it in San Diego Bay. That Martin Beaumont bought a ticket to Valhalla when he and Rachel went to France for the Normandy tour. In some places, God isn't dead, I wanted to say. But Rachel wouldn't be throwing herself on the flaming craft. She would be baring her breast to the Valkyrie and offering up her soul to be with Marvin. She'd be going shopping for a pretty black dress at Antoine's on Rodeo Drive and debating whether or not to wear a hat to the pyre. She'd text her best friends for advice. El Camino Park, I said. You want to visit the grave? Lars had returned from the kitchen with a steaming bowl of chili, reclined again, and set one bowl on the tray. He remembered to crunch the saltines before he brought food into the living room. Maybe eating would lift his funkadoodle. I didn't answer, so Lars' traveling third ear knew the answer was no. There was no grave, no headstone, no marker, no hole. There was no flower sprays or wreaths with ribbons reading beloved husband and father, written in gold glitter either. Marvin wasn't Italian. No prayer cards. He wasn't Catholic or Protestant. He was nothing. And being nothing, he didn't know no one was interested in his missing granite memorial except Lars Kempel. Lars shouldn't go outside naked in the rain. Someone might see all the controversial ink spread over his body and think he's a circus freak. One of his tats is an American flag with a swastika where the stars should be. But he slid open the patio and went to the rose bush in the corner of the garden. He knelt down at the grave of our Doberman, Thor, who won a blue ribbon for best in breed in the La Jolla Dog Show and died that a year later from canine cancer. I could see Lars shaking his head in disbelief, the way he always did when he patted the dirt by the rose bush he planted over him. Or was it disgust, maybe delight? It's tough to tell with nihilists. Rain slithered down his 30-year-old body, dripping off his nose, and pooled around his feet and were sinking into the soil. How shall we comfort ourselves, the murderer of all murderers? What was the holiest and mightiest of all that the world has yet owned and bled to death under our knives? Who will wipe this blood off it? What water is there to clean ourselves? Lars said, when he laid Thor in the earth and shoveled the last of the mulch over him. That's depressing, I remembered saying. That's Nietzsche, he said, the gay science that isn't gay anymore. Lars needed comforting more than I did. Marvin bought him a subscription to the History Channel magazine for Christmas, the first year we were married, and Lars renewed every 2 years. His funkadoodle wasn't lifted by the chili, and I was betting he'd pay for indulging his inner Mexican with indigestion and gas as he watched the Final Four teams bounce a basketball up and down the court. I wanted so much to touch his flesh, to strip off my clothes and kneel by his side, to put my arms around his shoulder. I wanted an incantation that would raise Thor from the dead so he could sit between us. I wanted to pet him and tell him we still loved him, tell him I was proud of him, that his blue ribbon was beautiful and we kept it in a box in the basement, along with his chew toy and his heart-shaped name tag just for his resurrection. I wanted to tell him I missed him, as always did, and now I have so much more to tell him. What?
Just carry on, please, AJ. I think Robin was talking perhaps to somebody else.
Okay. But removing my shoes was the closest I dared come to freedom, and I stepped at the patio door because I never learned how to pray. Oh, okay. That's it. That was great. That was hilarious.
Yeah, it was very engaging. I think my mind. I'm so taken by your brilliance on the level of the references and the rhythm that I sort of have difficulty getting the larger picture. But it's very impressive the way you write. Who's influenced you a lot in your diction and the way you construct the narratives?
Well, it's really funny. As you know, I have not read a lot of classical literature or the canon of the literature. It's film. Listening to dialogue in film of some of the best movies that have ever been written in terms of their dialogue.
Such as, I mean, what's
okay,
what?
probably the best film that I've seen the two big ones are Lawrence of Arabia and Judgment at Nuremberg. As a political
really?
science
Okay.
teacher,
Mm.
the script for Judgment at Nuremberg and the way they set it up as the trial of ideas and the factual information, to me, is much more compelling, I think, than most people who would watch that movie who aren't political science teachers. But the writer of the dialogue does an incredible job of integrating factual information with presenting a legal argument and that logic to that. So I'm not a particularly emotional kind of a person, but the intellectual dialogue and scenes in those two movies, I think, are probably the best that have ever been made. Now, and I know, the stuff like Gone with the Wind, what a boring movie that was. But the dialogue I learned simply from listening to the way people write scripts. So it's pretty easy to get to the bare bones of sentences and to convey meaning through those bare bones. Now, the interesting thing about um, um, God and Mooney is that this is once again a published it is published in Gambling in the Isles in June and then reprinted in Glasscord in March, one in 2012, one in 2013. And the fact that you can write and then things are reprinted, which, by the way, for aspiring people who want to publish on the internet, you can do that now, where in print it's very difficult to have it done, the reprints. Not so with the internet, which is open market kind of thing.
So sorry, did these are online magazines, literary magazines online or
Now, a lot of them are college journals.
college? And that's the case with where where the last story was published on a college journal.
Gambling in the Isle is a private webzine. But Glasscourt, I think, is the college journal, and for the life of me, I don't remember what college that it is. But
So you're competing then with mainly students at the college or not?
well, college journals are usually done by graduate students.
From the
MSc
college,
programs,
yeah.
yeah, and they're graduate students. Many of those graduate students are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. A lot of people go to MFA programs later on in life. So you're dealing with adults as opposed to non-adults, younger people, for publishing purposes. And they do pay, which is nice.
So
But
people pay to read the magazines or they subscribe to them.
The journals are sold. Like I say, they are a revenue producing instruments of a lot of the universities and the MFA programs. And of course, this is who cares, right?
Okay.
But it's kind of interesting information how American literary stuff works. There's a lot of good writers on Substack, and I encourage people to go there and check it out because they do have some wonderful writers on Substack.
One influence I heard in your work was again film noir. You know how at the beginning they always have a bunch of narration? There's a narrator at the beginning of many film noir, and it's always this dark and grim depiction of urban life. And I kind of felt that influence in your main narration in this story, you know?
Yeah, this one, I think it probably comes close to the the funniness of now, you got Camus running around, oh, life is absurd and oh my God, the world is kind of falling. But there's a lot of funny stuff about very deep emotional things.
Yeah.
And what I try to do is bring a little levity into otherwise dismal stories, if that makes any sense.
Jenean, what did you used to teach at the military college?
I taught sociology, political science, criminology, introduction to law, and there was one more. Oh, yes, career planning. So, so
Okay, well,
mainly,
quite a wide span of things.
but once again, it's a structural issue. The schools that have military contracts, people have to be able to move around. And because I wasn't married, my children were older. It was I'm available. Like AJ, I'm retired, so my time I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I started out in military education. I had a couple of tenured positions and I didn't want to stay. I'd rather travel around and teach in other areas.
Do you see your work principally as the work of a humorist? I mean, AJ was sort of chuckling quite often, so that seems to have,
East
have hit
American
the
Jew
target.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of references to the Southwest that we're both
Yeah.
familiar with. So a lot of it is funnier. But I write novels. And like I said, I would rather do the flash fiction today because of the nature of our meetings than to write an excerpt from a novel where
Yeah.
everybody goes, what's the context of
But
this?
I mean, do you think of yourself as a humorous writer? Is
No,
that all right? So the humor was an incidental feature. I mean, the first piece
I
wasn't. It maybe had a dark humor, but perhaps I wouldn't really call it a humorous piece.
what has always amazed me is that when I mail off stuff and it gets published and people write to me and say, that was so funny, you're such a funny writer. And I'm thinking, I didn't write that to be funny. It's not intentional. It's just, the way I see the world. It's a worldview. It
Yeah.
has nothing to do with wanting to be a humorous writer in the same way that you've got Dave Barry and a lot of people who that's their job is to write funny. I don't do
Your
that.
sarcasm was hilarious in that last piece. I couldn't help chuckling even while it was sarcasm. It wasn't a joke, but it was
Right.
such rich sarcasm. I couldn't help chuckling while I was reading it,
Yeah, it gets kind of silly. But I do want to give myself a plug here. My master's novel, The General's Lady, I am producing the audio version of it. It's not been published. So I'm making an audio book to see
Oh, well done. Well, excellent,
how it
excellent.
sounds to be
Yeah.
read.
Are you reading it
I feel-
yourself? You're reading it yourself, are
No,
you?
no, no,
Oh,
no.
someone else is.
Yeah, I've got actually a teacher that I took a class, how to write military science fiction class that I took. He is doing the narration, and he has a friend who has a studio audio kind of thingy, and
Yeah.
so we're giving it a bash.
Oh, we'll tell us how that goes. Tell us when it's finished. I think no. I mean, the world of audiobooks is now very,
Absolutely.
it's sort of growing extraordinarily, and the range of things that one can get now to listen to is far wider than one would have imagined. I always listen to things on my bicycle when I'm out, and you can get some really quite academic texts
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
It is surprising. You know, it's very good. Uh, yeah.
But yeah,
Perhaps just to comment on the humor, perhaps it is the case that people who don't intend to be funny or not thinking themselves as funny writers are the funniest. Because I thought it was funny, even funny in both senses of the word, that Jenean said that she didn't think of her writing as funny because it so obviously is to me. But I think maybe that's the point. It's maybe people who think, oh, I'm going to write something funny, they don't do it because it's well known that it's one of the most difficult things to do is to write something which makes people laugh. And Jenean's writing obviously is funny. It's satirical anyway. And
yeah.
yeah, and
Thank you.
Jenean, if you don't think it is, or you say you're surprised that people find it so, that can only mean that you're just not trying, which is probably the key to your success. That's exactly the point. That you just write this satire and you don't sort of think, I'm going to try to be funny, I'm going to try to be funny, and maybe that doesn't work very well. I can think of a lot of writing that's supposed to be funny or things supposed to be funny. I don't find them funny at all. And maybe the things I do find funny is that people weren't trying to be funny. And that could be the case, you
Right,
know.
right.
Yes.
But what's interesting about film is that even Hitchcock is really known for that as well, is that you've got this very, very tension-filled and kind of this, I don't know how to, dark kind of story. There's always something that breaks that tension. There's always a line or a word or a situation that's going to be slightly humorous. And it works well, I think, in film as well as writing to have a little bit of levity because why?
Indeed. But that's an interesting point. We've talked a lot about that, but I sort of sometimes think with Hitchcock that the levity is at his own expense. That I mean, I don't enjoy his films. I personally find them that the praise is a little bit exaggerated. But when you mention that, there are so many things where I think he must be deliberately making fun of himself or of all of us.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what was that? Where the heroine is killed early on in Psycho. She's a very famous actress. And he sort of gives her zero role, and he sort of almost because she's immediately killed within 10 minutes of the film. I can't remember her name. And the point surely is that he's making a joke that everybody's going to see his film, which is going to be more of a commercial success because she's acting in it. And actually, she plays a very minor role because Tom Perkins murders her in the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And that is almost, is that Hancock making fun of himself? Or the other one, which I thought was an awful film. It takes part. I think is it Casablanca or North Africa, and two people there's a kidnapping. And anyway, there's a film scene where
the man who knew too much.
Yes, the man who knew too much. And there's a film scene. I'm sure you remember where they sit in this car, and repeatedly it's the same scene in the background with this Arab walking across the road. And that is so obvious, so obviously and dramatically a technical mistake that it's not a mistake. He must have thought, I'm just going to throw that in to make a joke about technical backgrounds. And if you don't recognize that, you're stupid. And he seems to do that quite a lot. Or he appears himself very briefly in some stupid way.
In every movie.
In every movie, yeah. I sort of noticed him once or twice. So, yeah, I felt that a lot about him.
Elizabeth, how did you find Jenean's writing, which is very much based in the specifics of American culture? Did you find it accessible or slightly too removed from your experience?
So the last story was the one I understood best. The first, I lost context after a while. I lost context. Yeah. But what I realized was it's very, very good written. That's what I know I can say that. Also, I didn't understand everything. And I think if I had understood more, I would have chuckled more because I only got part of what was funny. And I would really like to read the stories. So if you can send them to me, I would really appreciate that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I will do that. If you give me your email address in the chat, I will get it and send it to you by email. Here, what was I going to say? You can blame, as I do, the English. I grew up on Britcoms watching the Flying Circus, Monty Python's Flying Circus, which is a reference.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons I chose these was because of the references to British stuff. Because why? I find the British sense of humor. One of the first movies I ever saw was The Importance of Being Earnest, the first one they made. I believe it was done as Masterpiece Theater. I'm not quite sure if it was or not, or if it was a full-fledged film. But I just thought that was the most hilarious, one of the most hilarious movies I've ever seen in my life. So a lot of it is the deadpan kind of, you just tell the story and the humor just comes out in it. I find that way. So
Yeah, Jenean, are you familiar with Alan Ayckbourn, who's an English dramatist?
no.
Okay.
You might appreciate.
Yeah,
What
you
do you think?
might
So I
like
think
it.
you might,
Yeah,
because
very good.
I'm sorry, what's his name?
Alan, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I think I am.
Yeah,
Ayckbourn.
yeah. I think it's A-Y.
It's a funny spelling, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
a Y
maybe
in it or something.
A-Y-C or C-K.
Ckbourne, but there's something surprising in the spelling. Yeah.
Yeah, let's have a
I'll be able to find it in the.
You will, yes. I think he wrote a place, but I mean, the comedy is of misunderstanding. It's obviously a little bit wild in that way, but it's very, very deadpan. And some of his best ones, I think it's some of the funniest things that I've really ever seen.
yes, he's very, very skillful as a playwright.
Joe Orton is good too. What the
Yeah,
Butt We
different kind
Call
of.
is probably one of the funniest movies or plays ever written. I mean, it really. And
Oh, there we are. You've got it.
Yeah,
Alan
Alan
Ayckbourn
Ayckbourn.
statue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Alan Ayckbourn is far is far finer a dramatist than Joe Orton. Definitely, yeah, he is very uh he's very clever in how he constructs things, and they're not relying on any shocking
Not at all. They're relying
factors.
on the way people behave and thereby
Yeah. They're well
misunderstand
observed.
each other
They're
or mistake.
subtle,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
far
Yes.
higher quality in my view. Ginny, have you got Elizabeth's email address?
I'm writing it down now, so that when we go, I got it.
Yeah. I think as people are beginning to drop off, we should draw
Drop off, you
things.
mean in the sense of leaving, don't you say?
I think so. Yeah.
Not going to sleep.
But yeah, as Elizabeth said, the work was a pleasure to hear read. Obviously,
Absolutely. Yeah. Very
very had
much.
a high literary quality, even though you didn't say that yourself. It's obviously a different genre of literature from Dr. Johnson, but it's very, very nicely chiseled in
Funny comparison.
in its particular way, I think. And thanks very much, to Elizabeth.
Thanks for reading and listening.
No, it was our
Our
pleasure,
pleasure.
obviously.
I think it was our
Thanks,
pleasure.
Jenean. Yeah.
And I look forward to not to news about the progress of something in an audio format. That would be very good. And AJ, I shall be in touch with you privately. About something we can get together. I think that would be very good. All right, then I'm not
Right.
sure.
Just perhaps make mention instead. Hopefully, we can fit in something in December. Maybe
Yeah.
with some kind of a games or something like that, or quizzes.
Oh dear.
I know you don't like them, do you? No,
I won't come. I won't come then. Yeah, no. Yeah.
Well, just quickly with the few people who are still here, do they or do they not like sort of quizzes and games?
I do.
Okay, we've got
No,
one person.
you two can have a. I don't know. I don't know. No.
It's so British. I'm rather surprised you don't like it. But
No, I just prefer kind of just reading reading a piece that was actually
well, we'll have to think of something in that case.
rather than just going
AJ and Elizabeth are not giving an opinion on that, so
yeah.
maybe Jenean and I are in a minority in that case.
There are plenty of stories to read, but I mean, there's so much stuff to read. All right then. Enjoyed tonight. It was as good as I thought it was going to be. I was expecting it to be entertaining, and it's not been at all a disappointment. So yeah, thanks for your very very good quality. All right, have a good Sunday, everyone.
Everybody, yes.
very good
Thank
to
you.
meet
You
you.
too.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Bye for now.
Okay.
Bye bye.
All the best, everybody. Bye.